Hello my Foonatics, it's Fufu here, and today is the day for the GBA D-League final. I know a lot of you have been wanting to know what went down, and I'm sorry it's been a while, but by the end of this video you will know what the score was, what went down, and who is the winner of the GBA D-League, so stay tuned. I am up against Adam. I feel like we were both underdogs in the playoffs. I had battled George previously in the semi-finals, and he had beaten me in the first week 5-0, so I think everyone's money would have been on George to win that one, but I did manage to sneak the victory, which I was very happy about. And so I made it to the final. Adam was playing Miguel, or Mega Mogwai. He was the favourite to win, really. I think he was everyone's favourite to win because of his incredible record in the group stages. It was the best in the whole season, and he was #1 seed. So that Adam beat Miguel is incredible, and I'm quite happy about it because if I were playing Miguel, I would be very, very daunted. Adam, I am still daunted by. He's a great player, but I have played him twice previously and beaten him, so I know that I can do it. That does by no means mean that does not mean that this is going to be an easy feat, an easy thing to pull off. He's definitely going to give me a good fight, a good run for my money. So let's have a look at why that is the case. I've played him twice previously, as I said, and both times I brought the same team. Now that's because I knew that it was a good team against him, and also because the second time I thought he might not know that I would be so brazen as to just bring the same thing. So it was still kind of an element of surprise. He doesn't know exactly what the sets are if I have literally just brought the same team or not. So I felt like that was okay, but going into the final I have to build a team, and bringing the same team again, is that really a good idea? Because Adam knows that team now. He knows that team really well, and he can prepare for it really well. If I bring that team, there will be no surprises. He will know all of my tricks, and so yeah, he'll be at an advantage in that respect. But at the same time, if I switch things up now, I know that that's a winning formula, and if I change things, I might be changing things to worse, to make the team worse, and I don't want to do that just for the sake of having a surprise. So looking at his roster, there are things that I'm scared of, but I felt like my team the team that I built originally was built for pretty much anything. I felt like it was the best team to go up against Adam. There were some other things that I had considered. I felt like Sharpedo was a relatively good matchup against him because the dual stab hits almost everything, and the stuff that it doesn't hit, it does hit everything. The stuff that it doesn't hit, like Venusaur, I could run the Zen Headbutt, but I didn't think he'd bring Venusaur anyway. So Sharpedo could be a great late game sweeper, but it's such a risky Pokemon to use. I didn't think it was worth taking the risk this late in the game. So I actually ended up just bringing the same team. Now that team is... I feel like it is the best matchup against Adam, and what it is I brought an AV Rotom, Kyurem, which was kind of a mixed attacker. It was Ice Beam, Earth Power, and Fusion Bolt for the Vaporeon. I brought a Sylveon with mixed defenses and Hyper Voice, and also Hidden Power Ground to hit both Magnezone and Heatran. I brought a Scarfed Infernape because I wanted something to be able to outspeed Latias, and also a U-turner, and it matches up really well in terms of its dual stabs. They're really powerful against his team. I also brought Alakazam. Alakazam is a great Pokemon. Only his Crobat outspeeds it, and it's got really great coverage, so I could bring a set that hits pretty much everything on his team. And the final thing that I brought, which is a very important one, is Skarmory, to keep away the rocks, because I've got Rotom-h and Kyurem, both very key players, and I need those rocks away, so I want to defog his rocks, and that was going to be key. I thought that Adam this time would emphasize rocks because that had put pressure on my team previously in the second match, so I definitely thought that he'd do that again. I thought he'd also bring Terrakion because Terrakion took on my Skarmory really well in the second match, and if he can take out my Skarmory, it means he can take out my defog, and he can keep the rocks up. So I thought those things would both be things that he would bring. I also thought that he would potentially bring something to surprise me, something I hadn't seen before, like the Mega Venusaur or the Heatran, because so far it feels like he had been intimidated into not bringing them. I thought he might bring them this time. Anyways, let's look at what he did bring. He brought Latias, which is a massive threat to my team. The Thunderous, which again is a massive threat to my team. The Volt turning, I don't bring a ground type, so he's free to Volt turn. So it's a really good idea to bring that for him. He brought the Terrakion, as I said. I expected that because it does take on my Skarmory really well, and I am scared of it. He brought the Heatran. Didn't necessarily expect that, not at all, and I wasn't really sure why, but we will see in the battle how it works. He brought the Regirock. I struggled to take that down last time. Kyurem only just managed to get out of that encounter by the skin of its teeth. So seeing that again is not really something I wanted to see. And then finally Crobat. Crobat's there at its speed. He outspeeds my Alakazam, so it's definitely got a place. And also could well have Defog or something like that. So that is the team. Let's get into the battle. So I decided to lead off with Rotom because I felt like it could take a hit from pretty much anything on Adam's team and get the Volt Switch off. Yeah, I thought that would be the best play to make. He leads with the Regirock, so I am just going to Volt Switch on the Regirock. I don't want to take a Rock type move, it would do a lot of damage. I'm thinking that he's probably going to set up his Stealth Rock on the first turn. He might want to go for the Rock type move, but I'm thinking he would want to set up the Stealth Rock. So I'm going to Volt Switch out into my Skarmory. Now this will also help me to know what kind of a Regirock it is. I can see if it has the leftovers or if it might be AV. But I'll also see if it's defensive or specially defensive. Now that does not do too much damage. I'm a max special attack modest Rotom, so I thought that he was probably going to be either AV or especially defensive at this stage. Can't really tell what. He does go straight for the Rock Slide, and we see the lefties, so lefties Regirock, especially defensive lefties Regirock. That's fine. He doesn't get his rocks up, meaning that I don't have to defog at this stage. Now I want to set up my own rocks. If he stays in and sets up his rocks, I can't do anything to this Regirock. So that would be really annoying, and because I want to make sure that the rocks aren't on my side of the field, more than having my own rocks on his side of the field, if he does set his up, I will just stay in and defog my own rocks away. But I'm going to set up rocks this turn in case he might want to switch out, because Regirock generally can't do too much to Skarmory either, though I can't touch him, he can't touch me. So he does switch out. I'm going to get my rocks as he goes into the Heatran. Obviously, I can't stay in a Heatran with my Skarmory, so I'm going to have to switch out. I do have a very nice switch in on the Heatran. I brought the AV Rotom for the Thunderous, but it actually works out really well for the Heatran too. Heatran's stabs can't touch my AV Rotom. So he does get his rocks up. That's where I see what Heatran's role is. He's always had rocks on his Regirock, and I can just switch in my Skarmory on the Regirock and defog. I cannot have my defogger in on the Heatran, so he will be able to get his rocks up, and I'll have to play around trying to get my Skarmory in to defog. So I now know why he brought this Heatran. As I said before, my Rotom does carry the Hidden Power Ground, so that's what I'm going to go for right now. I don't want him to be doing any like sub-toxic shenanigans on my Rotom, so I will be able to hopefully 2-hit KO this Heatran. I doubt that I'd OHKO it, depending on the set. He reveals Ancient Power here, but that really doesn't do too much damage. I'm thinking that he must be more of a defensive set. Looking at that damage, probably specially defensive, but I'm not sure on that. And he shows the Shuka Berry as well, so he's not going to take too much damage from the Hidden Power Ground. But this next one will likely kill. So he's probably going to switch out at this stage. He could switch into his Thunderous Therian, in which case my Volt Switch won't work. But this is my stop to Thunderous Therian, so I really don't mind if he switches that in right now, as I would just be able to overheat on it the next turn. But he does go into his Regirock. I'm going to Volt Switch out now, and I'm going to go back into my Skarmory. I'm getting good chip damage on this Regirock because it's a beast. It's so hard to take down. But yeah, I'm going to go into my Skarmory right now because I can defog away the rocks, as the Regirock's just going to get some recovery right here. And I'm saying that I want to keep the rocks away from my side of the field because Adam's actually brought a really speedy team, and for my Kyurem to do much, it doesn't want to take much damage because it's more likely going to have to rely on its bulk than its own speed to take some hits from Adam's team and fire back with powerful hits, rather than being able to set up subs really easily or whatever. Adam didn't bring Vaporeon notably this time, which is really interesting because Vaporeon did generally perform pretty well against me, but I do have things to hit it in Rotom and Fusion Bolt on Kyurem. Anyway, he gets a Drain Punch off, gets recovery from Drain Punch and Lefties, both of which really annoying because he's on a really high amount of health now. I do manage to get the Defog off though and go for my own Stealth Rock, and having Stealth Rock on his side of the field is doing a really nice job actually. He's got a number of things weak to rocks. Thundurus and Crobat are both weak to rocks, and it hits everything, so that's good. He also might have something that's sashed, I don't really know. I'm going to switch out my Skarmory right here. I need to keep my Defog. I'm going to go into my Kyurem, and we see that he goes for the knockoff and it does a lot of damage. I was thinking he might go for the Volt Switch right there, which would have been ideal. He's a Life Orb, Thundurus, and I'm thinking he probably has something to hit my Kyurem. He's probably got a Fighting type move. I could be just leaving it into Sack here, but I am going to stay in and go for an Ice Beam. Because I don't really have anything to switch in on this Thundurus, especially if it's a physical one. My Sylveon can't take those hits, and obviously Skarmory can't take electric type hits. But it's likely to be mixed, I think. Not really sure though. I'm going to go for an Ice Beam, hoping that I'm not just going to be taken out by either a Superpower or a Focus Blast. Either of those things could be a thing. But I'm thinking in the final, relying on Focus Blast is not something Adam would really want to do. Not that he has many good switch-ins on an Ice Beam, especially because Regirock's already taken some damage. He gets a nice crit Volt Switch that does a lot of damage to my Kyurem. Thundurus is so powerful. Kyurem's so bulky, and that was a resisted hit, but it still did a lot of damage. Crobat comes in to take the Ice Beam, and the Yachi Berry is not going to save you really there, friend. What I could have done now is stayed in, because if he Brave Birds, he will die. That Crobat will die. So he's likely going to U-turn, and I can live that, and I could have got off another powerful hit. But he could Roost at the same time, and I didn't really want him doing that. So I'm going to switch out here. As I say, I don't really want to have to sack my Kyurem right now. And I'm going to go into my Skarmory. Skarmory is an easy switch in on the Crobat. So he's going to U-turn. The rocks are still up though, so that is good for me. But I really don't like rocks on my side of the field, and especially because Kyurem is looking unhealthy. But because he gets the U-turn initiative, Adam can force me out of my Skarmory. I can't take a hit from this, and I'm not going to be able to. Oh, he doesn't have his rocks up at the moment, but he's going to set his rocks up right now with the Heatran. So I will have to get a Defog off at some point. The Crobat is on low health though, and it would be nice if the Crobat could die before I go for my own Defog. But rocks pressure my team too much, really. I'm going to go for a U-turn right now. I was thinking he might want to switch into his Latias, because that would be able to take the close combats best. He couldn't switch into his Crobat at that stage because it would have died to rocks, as we've seen before. So I thought that Latias would be the switch in, but he actually just goes into his Regirock, which definitely wouldn't have taken two close combats. I'm thinking it might have been a sack, not really sure though. But I've U-turned on this, and I'm going to go into my Skarmory again. As I say, the hazard control I felt was my most important job this match. I don't want those Stealth Rock on my side of the field, and this is a battle that's going to go on for a while, the hazard control battle. But we're going to go into Skarmory right now, and I'm going to try for the Defog again. Unfortunately, that probably means giving Regirock some more HP with the Drain Punch and the lefties, but I am going to go for a Defog, and we can see what happens. But he shows that he has Stealth Rock on the Regirock as well, and that is when I realised that I'm not going to win this hazard battle. There are going to be rocks on my side of the field. I'm going to have to play differently. I'm going to have to adapt. I've always felt like Kyurem and Rotom would have to do a lot of the work. What I'm going to do now is completely switch tactics, get up my own rocks, and try and keep offensive pressure on. And that means relying more on the Infernape and the Alakazam, because those things outspeed a lot of his team right now. His Crobat is dead to rocks. I just need to make sure that Latias isn't Scarf, because then my two things will outspeed everything, and will hopefully, between the two of them, be able to really clean up, because Adam's team is being really worn down by these rocks. The things that are his offensive threats are being worn down quite easily, and the Infernape and Alakazam hit his defensive things quite well. So right now I'm actually just going to sack my Kyurem. As I said, the rocks are going to stay. I can't really do too much about that. Kyurem is not going to be able to take any hits at the range of health it will be at, so I'm just going to sack it right now. Normally, that is a heinous crime because Kyurem is so good for my team, but seeing the matchup, it's outsped by pretty much everything on Adam's team, and it's not going to be doing anything, so I'm going to stack it there. The Thunderous goes for Volt Switch, which means he's taking more Life Orb, and will have to take more Stealth Rock on the switch in, so that works for me. And he goes into the Regirock. I'm going to go into my Infernape here. I did do a calc. Because it is specially defensive and not defensive, I know that my close combat will be able to probably take this thing out. Even though it's got monstrously high natural defense, I should be able to take this this Regirock out. So I'm going to go straight for a close combat. If he does go into the Latias, I'm just going to deal with that as it comes, because I still have my Sylveon, which hasn't even seen the battle yet, that can easily switch in on a Latias. So the Regirock does go down, and I think that was just because he thought he might be able to live a close combat. And so he stayed in. And also, if I lock myself into close combat, he could go into the Latias and take me on better. So I'm going to switch out right here. Obviously locked into close combat, this is not a situation that I want to be in, so I'm going to switch into my Sylveon. Now, as I said before, I did have in the back of my mind that this could be a Trick Scarf Latias, so switching into my Sylveon could be a problem, but I wasn't too worried, because if he does trick Sylveon the Scarf, it means that he's lost the Scarf, and that's not bad for me. My offensive threats really could do with Latias not being scarfed. I don't want it to outspeed my Alakazam. I don't want it to outspeed my Infernape. So now he's tricked my Sylveon the Scarf. His Latias is far too important for him to stay in and take a Hyper Voice at this stage. I know he's going to switch out, and I know that Alakazam can pretty much get a kill when it comes in now. So I'm going to switch straight into my Alakazam, making a really offensive play. And he does switch out. He goes and sacks his Crobat. That means that nothing outspeeds my Alakazam now, unless he's got a Scarf Terrakion as well. Scarf Terrakion is the only other thing that could outspeed my Alakazam, because I've seen that everything else isn't Scarf and it doesn't outspeed. So I've gone into my Alakazam, and Alakazam can really punch a hole in his team right now. I was thinking, if he's got a Scarf Terrakion, that's fine because the rocks are up. But if he does have if he's got a Sash Terrakion, that's fine because the rocks are up, so that'll break the Sash. He goes into his Latias. Latias is the one thing stopping my Infernape from locking itself into close combat. With the rocks, Thunderous won't be able to take the close combats. So I want to kill this Latias. Now I'm perfectly fine breaking my Sash on this with my Alakazam. So I'm going to go straight for a Shadow Ball, as Adam actually just goes for a Psyshock, and I can obviously easily take that because it's a resisted hit, and I can now take out the Latias with another Shadow Ball, and that means that my Infernape in the back should be able to do a lot of damage with the close combat. So I'm able to keep this offensive pressure on with my Alakazam and the rocks. The rocks are doing so much work for me, and I think that's what Adam hadn't been as prepared for this time, was me being able to use the rocks on my own. I've always been the guy that tries to defog away because my team is really, really weak to rocks, but I'm just embracing them now, and it's working so far. I was really scared of that Terrakion being Scarfed though. He could still come in and just knock out my Alakazam, and he would it would be a speed tie with my Ape, so that would be an issue. Anyway, he switches into his Heatran here. Another interesting play. I do have the Focus Blast that would have been able to take out the Heatran, but because he switched it in, I don't have to rely on the Focus Blast. I can just go for 2 Shadow Balls, and that was one of the ways how he could have beaten my Alakazam without having to resort to his Terrakion. But I do take out the Heatran, which is great, and it turns out his Terrakion is not Scarf. So I can take out the Terrakion. We've already seen that I've done enough damage to take out the Latias, and his Thunderous is definitely in Psyshock killing range. So this is when I realised that actually Alakazam is just going to clean up for me. I was just using it really to try and get enough damage on the team so that close combat could do the rest of the work. But Alakazam is an absolute beast, bringing home the title for Mewcastle United. I am so pleased. That was a really, really strong show. I didn't expect it to go that way, really, at all. I knew that I could do it, and I knew that I had a strong tactic. But I was very scared when I saw that Heatran with rocks. It really pressured my team. It meant that I couldn't get the defog off, and I knew that I would have to change my tactics up, which I managed to do. So GG Adam, thank you very much for the game. Thank you for being such a great opponent throughout. We've had some really incredible battles. And yeah, that's the end. That is the end of the D-League. For now, there could well be more seasons to come. But that's it for now, and I won, and I didn't think I would do, and I'm very happy about it. Yeah, so that was Mewcastle United. Very, very pleased with the performance. I've just felt that I got into my team, and consistency was the key. I found my groove. I found Skarmory was the thing that I needed to defog. Sylveon was the thing that I needed to take some hits, and then just had to use my heavy hitters in Kyurem, Mega Pinsir, Alakazam, Infernape. Those were the key guys, really. And Rotom was amazing. Rotom was such a good pivot. So yeah, really happy with my team, and really happy with my season. It started off really, really horribly, really badly, with some of the worst losses the whole season saw. But I clawed it back and just kept my head in the game. And yeah, very, very happy with how everything went. So, to all the supporters of Mewcastle United, we did it! We did it! Winning was really cool. I didn't think I'd win. I didn't think I'd care that much, but it just proves to me that I'm not trash at the game, which sometimes I can feel like I am, and it's nice to know that, oh, I'm not always that trash. I'm not always that trash. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who organised the league, because it has been fun, and I've met some really awesome people who I probably wouldn't have met otherwise. So yeah, thanks to those people for that. And yeah, I've been Fufu. You've been awesome. Thanks for your support. Hopefully see you next time. Bye.